Hi, everyone. My name is Doug Weish. I'm the connector with Retail AI Council. Retail AI Council's mission is to help retailers embrace the transformative potential of AI. I'd like to thank everyone for joining today's session of Get the Prompt. Please welcome our host, Ashley Gross.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure as always to be here. I am not alone, though. I have brought my friend, Chris Daigle, in. If you don't know Chris, actually, you probably already do know Chris because we overlap a lot and we do a lot of events together. But on the rare chance that you don't know Chris, he is the founder and CEO of Chief AI Officer. I'll let him introduce himself and say hi real quick. But you're going to learn a lot about him and his product. And I'm really excited that you guys get to share this with us.
Hi, guys. I'm Chris
welcome.
Daigle. I'm the founder of ChiefAIOfficer.com, and we train and educate non-technical business professionals on how to be the AI leaders in their role, company, or industry.
So how this is going to work today is I'm going to give you a little bit of a spiel on where I'm going with retail, my predictions on AI disrupting retail and what I'm seeing today, and then kind of walk you through the rise of the Chief AI Officer, because I didn't think that it was fair to talk to you about how important this role was when you're told every single day how important this thing is and this thing is, and it pivots so frequently. So I wanted to tackle this a little bit differently through storytelling. I'm a marketer. You can't get it out of me. Once a marketer, always a marketer. So that's the plan for the day and the agenda. So retail, right? Retail has always thrived on understanding customer demand, optimizing supply chains, and standing out through brand differentiation. However, we are witnessing a transformative shift in this industry, and it is driven by the rapid adoption of AI. And AI is no longer just a tool. It is changing every single aspect of retail, from how inventory is managed to creating hyper-personalized shopping experiences to staying competitive in, new landscapes. Companies not only have to adopt AI, but fully integrate it into their core strategies. This is not a small mission that we're talking about when we say that. I know everyone tries to package it up in a bow and make it sound really cute, but this is where the role of the Chief AI Officer becomes crucial. Their leadership in guiding AI adoption and integration means it's making the difference between surviving AI adoption and truly thriving in the evolving retail market. And I don't like to give anything away or talk about anything because I always add a disclaimer that I'm not an expert. So instead of telling you a bunch of opinions that I have, I'm going to back them up with facts and statistics, and we will link everything in the follow-up email so that you can do your own research. Because regardless of who you're hearing this information from, I think having time to do your own due diligence is really important when we talk about anything, but especially such a disruptive technology like AI. So I want to start the session off by talking about AI adoption in retail. What I'm seeing, and what everyone else is seeing as well, is by 2025, the global AI and retail market is expected to reach $23.32 billion. Billion with a B. This is up from 34.4% in 2020. And again, this is from a recent survey by Capgemini. They found that retailers implementing AI at scale have seen an increase in operating profits by up to 10%. As far as looking at impact on inventory management, if it's an AI-driven inventory management system, it's reducing overstock situations by 20 to 50%. And I know that's a huge gap, but 20 to 50%, and understock situations by up to 30%, which is leading to significant cost savings. Companies using AI for inventory management literally are reporting a 15% increase in forecast accuracy, which is directly impacting your bottom line, as you all know. And then if we also want to talk about how AI is disrupting retail, we have to touch on personalized shopping experiences, right? 91% of consumers are more likely to shop with brands that provide relevant offers and recommendations. You already know this. I'm not telling you anything different, right? AI is an enhancer. So if we look at that again, and we look at how AI is enhancing this, retailers that leverage AI for personalized experiences are seeing at least a 25% increase in customer satisfaction and a 20% boost in sales. Why am I telling you all of these things backed by Gartner, Capgemini, all this fun stuff? 30% of large enterprises will have appointed a Chief AI Officer or equivalent role to drive AI adoption and governance. This is by Gartner. This is not by Ashley Gross, okay? That is a really big emphasis. And that's kind of why I wanted to walk you through in a storytelling nature why AI is disrupting the industry, how it's disrupting it, and then give you some ROI to measure. Because if you know pre-AI what those metrics look like, then the post-AI metrics are actually bananas in your mind. And so obviously there's a huge need, right? We have a problem. 30% of large enterprises have to appoint a chief AI officer. And not only do they have to, they will because of all the disruption it's causing, but in the best way possible because it's adding revenue to their businesses. So with 30% of enterprises having to hire a chief AI officer, these leaders are going to be crucial in bridging the gap between AI innovation and then business strategy. So ensuring that AI initiatives align with long-term company goals is not something that is teachable in one certification or in one course, right? This is part learning in a book about practices and implementation strategies and looking at AI use cases that enhance retail industry as a whole. But this is also very much practical. There's only so much you can learn without having to go do some of the work and learn from other people that have done this. And that is why I brought Chris on today to talk about the Chief AI Officer, because I kind of selfishly am just sick of seeing on social media all of the negative and all the ambiguity and how heavy this feels, right? Like I just told you how AI is disrupting retail, and all of the disruption is still disruption. There's still process problems. There's still strategy. There's going to be, some turnover to a certain degree. It's going to affect the business negatively, but it's also going to affect it positively if done right. And I don't think that the chief AI officer role should be something that only a certain amount of people have access to. I don't believe in gatekeeping knowledge. And that's why we were talking about this beforehand, I think it's close to 40 certifications I've taken, but I can confidently say I know it's at least 35 I've taken. So I'll say out of the 35 I've taken, Chris has stuck out to me the most because I was able to go learn about what it actually entails to be a chief AI officer after already implementing AI in an enterprise. But his program was completely different in the way that he tackled it, because he didn't tackle it and talk about AI because it's AI and it's cool and wonderful and like, look at all the million things we can do. This course was built on strategy. It was very tactical, and it focused on enhancing the parts of a business that are already performing well, and then using AI to find the parts of the business that are not doing well so that you can enhance those. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Chris so he can tell you a little bit about the program, and then I'll continue to talk about my experience as he walks us through it. But I just want every executive out there that's watching this to know, what's coming. We talked about it, but it doesn't have to be this big, scary beast. If you start having conversations now and asking your network what their experience is and starting to take these certifications, we can tiptoe into the waters of Chief AI Officer land without having to like dive in fully deep without really having a strategy and alignment. So I'm going to stop talking for a little bit so that Chris can. But let's dive into your certification program. Can you tell the people about your program, which, by the way, you can find at chiefaiofficer.com?
Yay. Thank you, Ashley. And that's great feedback. I appreciate that. So guys, I'm a non-technical business owner. I'm not a coder or a programmer. And prior to the, broad release of ChatGPT in November of 2022, anybody that mentioned anything about AI, they had a technical background. They were a data scientist, they were a machine learning programmer, that sort of thing. And with the release of generative AI and the accessibility that it's got, those individuals, the data scientists, aren't required for you to have a huge AI impact in your role, your day-to-day, your team, your company, or even your entire industry. And this idea of the chief AI officer, again, prior to November of 2022, it was a very technical role. But in early 2023, if you guys are familiar with Peter Diamandis, he's the founder of the X Prize. They're leaders in commercial and personal space flight. He was a co-founder of Singularity University, and they're known for their prognostications on how technology is going to impact all facets of life. But they do a lot of focus on business with emerging technologies, and their success rate on the prediction of emerging tech, I think they've got an 86% success rate over the past 30 years when it comes to, we think this technology will do this to business. And I want to quickly share with you Peter was a guest on the Impact Theory podcast, which is hosted by Tom Bilyeu. And he actually mentions this role of the chief AI officer. And we subscribe to this definition. So let me play this for you real quick.
As somebody who's deploying AI as rapidly as humanly possible, and I know that people have a lot of anxiety around this, how should people be using AI right now if they want to be on that path?
So one of the things I'm doing in the companies that I'm running or advising or investing in is I'm saying, first of all, every company needs to have what I call a chief AI officer. And it is not someone who's building a large language model for you or writing code for you. It's an individual who understands what's going on in the terrain. So understanding what's out there, what the modalities are, and what you can and should be using is critical. So your chief AI officer is scanning the horizon, understanding it, and then advising members of your team.
As somebody,
So that struck with me because most of my background has been in what I call growth architecture. We come into companies, that outsider who doesn't have the biases and the history and all that stuff, but we come in and we identify impediments to growth in these businesses. Introducing generative AI was a way for us to accelerate that result cycle. Once we've identified what needs to occur, using these tools really got the result a lot faster. So a couple of concepts about the chief AI officer. First, you may say, well, I'm a CMO, I'm a CTO, whatever. Our company is called Chief AI Officer, but I want you to really more consider it as just the AI expert for the company. And that expertise, as Ashley mentioned, includes the development, working with a leadership team to develop an AI business strategy, but then also being able to get tactical with it and help identify potential pilot projects, rate those pilot projects, identify talent that you can groom within the organization who's already shown an enthusiasm for AI so that they can help be proxies for you as the AI expert in their own teams or their own departments. But a couple of concepts I want you to think about here, and they're, I guess, a little unorthodox compared to what you may be hearing through other certifications or training. First is this concept that we call thinking in AI. And it's a shift. For the past 20 plus years, if you needed to find something, where did you go? You went to Google. Go Google that, right? Became a verb. Now there are generative AI tools such as Perplexity, and of course the models like ChatGPT and Claude, that if you can start to create new habits and new behaviors of, instead of going to Google or instead of going, oh, what should I do about this? Let me think about it. Knowing that you can go to the models and use them as ideation partners or knowledge bases for you to get the solutions that you need, honestly, real time within your business. That effort of you changing those behaviors, you start to think in AI, as we call it. Now, another concept that we think is very important for this role of the AI expert, perhaps you've heard of the term of prompt engineer. And if you're not, prompting is the input that you give to any of the generative AI tools. It's the instructions, it's the command that you give it. And this idea of a prompt engineer, hell, I'm not an engineer, right? Like, that's a little intimidating. And it also would kind of lead somebody to believe that, oh, there's this very like prescriptive approach that I need to take, and I need to be like to study prompting and that sort of thing. What we teach is that once you're thinking in AI, you don't need a prompt library necessarily. You have the ability to, and the understanding of how to work with the tools to be able to dynamically go in and go, okay, here's the situation. I've got to prepare for the meeting. We're presenting to a client. I need a marketing strategy, whatever it is, that you can kind of go, okay, here's what I want, and that you are the arbiter of what a good prompt is, that you're able to create ideal input that results in ideal output. If you haven't had a lot of success with, you've said, oh, I've tried the models and it was okay. That's not because the models are incapable of providing you with high quality output. It's because you don't quite understand how to communicate your needs to the model. So we teach this concept of prompt intelligence as well, and it really takes the pressure off of you from like having to memorize a bunch of prompts or anything like that.
Can we pause here for a second?
Sure.
Because I think what you're saying, and I know the direction you're about to go to, but I think the importance that I really want to make sure that the audience is picking up from this is, in order to actually understand what you need to learn to make it applicable and succeed in this role, you actually have to get rid of all of the noise, which is what Chris is going through right now when he's saying you don't need to know, the history of LLMs in order to use them appropriately. You don't have to have a data science background. He's telling you this because right now on the market, if you're seeing these chief AI officer roles, a lot of the time they're saying, 10 years of machine learning and 10 years of this and 10 years of that. The market has not evolved yet to understand what is even needed of a chief AI officer. And I wanted to highlight that because this is the foundational element that makes this, in my opinion, the most successful course out there, because it would be so much easier for the chief AI officer program to say like, okay, we're going to teach you about machine learning this week. And now it's going to be natural language processes, because there's already so much information that you can piggyback off of in the market, but you don't need to know any of that. And instead of going with that, they're going against the grain and saying like, just forget about all of that noise. Here's the actual strategy of this. So I just wanted to highlight that for you in case you were like, what does prompt engineering have to do with this? We're just kind of demystifying some things before we get into the really juicy, actionable places, because we don't want you to go online and start looking up chief AI officers and see these 10 years of machine learning experience requirements and get discouraged that you can't do it, because it's not necessary. And I promise you the market's going to change. It already is. We're just not waiting for the market to change. We're going to equip you and prepare you for what you need to know now, so that when the market catches up with what's actually needed, you're already ahead of it and you don't have to rely on the market to tell you what you are capable and not capable of doing. My TED Talk's
great
over.
point.
I'm sorry.
And it's kind of like, I don't need to know why I get light when I flip a switch. There are individuals who, if I flip the switch, it doesn't work, I call that individual. So what we suggest is that, can companies benefit from, data intelligence extracted from large pools of their, of course. However, the impact that generative AI can have in your processes, once you know how to identify those, that's across all strata of the business, right? The frontline employee all the way to the chairman of the board can benefit from using generative AI, not necessarily exclusively the use of the data science side. And then one other concept that we like to teach is that when it comes to learning how to use generative AI in your business, I think you've already done the hard part. And what I mean by that is that the domain expertise that you've built over your career, if I bring in an AI expert and they don't understand my business, they're going to say, what do you need me to do? And you're going to go, I don't know, you're the expert. But if you bring the domain expertise and you start to get exposed to these tools, it's very easy for you to go, oh, this fits here, this fits here. Oh, we don't have to do that anymore because this does that. And that impact is much more immediate, and it does a number of things. If the company makes more money because of business intelligence extracted from data, that's great. But if I can go into a role as a chief AI officer and introduce generative AI and create AI-powered processes, and the individuals on my team no longer have to do the stuff they didn't like doing or that took a lot of time, the instant culture benefit is an increase in morale. And any reticence about using AI, they start to go, oh, do more of that. Like, do more of the things that creates more enjoyment for my job. Certainly it creates more time. Certainly it creates more revenue. But the introduction of a machine learning programmer into your business isn't going to make the employees happier necessarily. A couple of other things. The demand for a chief AI officer, Ashley indicated that, but some research through edX, which is a Harvard collaboration on an educational platform, they surveyed about 1,600 employees, about half of them were C-suite, and of that half, 500 were CEOs, and then half of every other middle manager all the way down to frontline employee. And at the executive level, 87% said that AI was disrupting their business strategy. And of those of the 100% that were surveyed, 77% said we'd love to do something about it, but we can't find those individuals, right? There's just, even at, we can call Deloitte or we can call Capgemini or whatever. They don't have enough bandwidth even to support what you need. And if you're not a Fortune 100 and you are in a mid-market, SMB, whatever that case might be, nobody's coming to your rescue.
And can I tell you what else is dangerous about that, though? What I find alarming about that is, just from that statistic alone, there's so many employees already in the workforce that are going to be so amazing at AI. They're just not being taught it at a strategic level to actually absorb it. So I fear, and I know that you have the same fear with this, and this is why we're so outspoken about our stance on training AI. My fear is that instead of the employers working with the employees they already have, because they already had that skill set, they already hired these folks, and trying to figure out AI collectively together, my fear is that they will let go of a lot of employees that are not AI enabled employees and bring in specialists because they think that that's what they need since they don't have that skill themselves. And then all of those good employees that had all these specific domain expertises are going to go other companies. And in reality, you don't need generalist AI, right? Like you don't need generalist AI workers. You need specialists that know how to use AI to enhance their own work. And I just wanted to point that out because we're already starting to see that trend happen where employees are being let go and specialists are being hired in. And just naturally from the market perspective, we've seen this happen without AI and it never works out well because eventually those specialists leave because of the competitive pricing at a different firm.
Yep.
And then those employers are left at ground zero again. And it's going to be way more expensive to hire back the employees that they actually trusted and already put time into to train them in AI.
Yep, that's a great point. And that's our number one suggestion before you fire somebody, because they will leave with domain expertise that has to be retrained on the new person that happens to be AI enabled or AI certified. The better path would be first, it's like I've got 15-year-old twin daughters. They're learning to drive. Before they get their license, they get the rules of the road. They get a written test. And what I would suggest is that the equivalent of that in your industry, your business would be a use policy, a generative AI use policy. So guys, this is what's okay. This is how we plan on approaching it. This is the transparency. This is data, anything that will mitigate risk and educate somebody on the appropriate use of those tools in your business. That's the first step. But then my daughters don't get a license at that point. They still have to show that they can conduct the automobile. For you, that would look like generative AI use policy. Next step, let's get you trained up on tools that are specific to your role. That entire process could be an afternoon. And certainly there's proficiency is gained, repetition is the mother of skill. But very quickly, if you provide those two things to the employee, and it could be one person in that department, and then let them start to trickle it down, that person now, the research from Boston Consulting Group and Harvard showed that even your lowest performers will see a 50% or greater improvement in their value contribution, time to delivery, quality of product, 50% increase just from some basic access to tools as simple as ChatGPT. That's profound impact. But now, one final point on this is that the same group that said we'd love to find those people, but 77% said we can't find that help. 83% said if you know this stuff, you should be paid more. Not because it's a buzzword, not because it's something sexy, but because you are bringing more value to the company at that point. It's amazing. If you're already doing that, you're nodding your head. And then 74% said they should be promoted more often. So this is something that is in this role of the AI expert, whether you identify as a chief AI officer or just the knowledge leader in your company. It's companies want it. They can't find the people, and they want to pay you more and promote you more often once you learn this stuff. Compelling arguments, we could talk about, the course and the certification and the path of that, but it is both a combination of strategy and understanding how to use the tools. Whether you're delegating the work to somebody else doesn't matter, but you now know how to use those tools. So I wouldn't go down a rabbit hole of learning data science and those sorts of things unless that was how you were inclined. Fantastic. If you're not that person, I'm going to tell you again, you've already done the hard part. So Ashley, if there's any other things that I missed, I'd love to address, but
no, I think you got it all covered. I just think I have a little bit of like juicy, context to add to this because I've seen this and I've experienced this and it is truly the wildest thing ever. So I was internally referred by a big enterprise. I will not name which one, but they do have an AI tool 4 times internally referred, right? So I did not apply for any of these 4 jobs. They internally just kept saying like, I think you'd be really good for this. We want you to interview. All for AI related titles. Okay. This was prior to me starting my own company and they were really nice. I will say like they were very cushiony salaries. And so I was like, well, I'll interview for one. So I did one interview and they were like, well, you don't have 10 years of machine learning experience. And I was like, can you explain to me why I would need 10 years of machine learning experience? And they couldn't explain it. And so the next 3 times they internally referred me, I said, I don't have 10 years of experience. I don't think you need it. And I think that what you actually need is communication. decision making, alignment, and cross collaboration on your job description and not this. And again, they said no. Fast forward to me actually building my business using an AI first approach, got it up off the ground in 10 days, have trained over 100 people on how to use AI. That company has since came back to me and didn't even say you needed to interview. They just literally said like, hey, if we're still on your radar. So I think sharing that is kind of like a nice contextual cushion to your story, just because we're putting a lot of facts into this. I think we're really meticulous when we have conversations because we don't want it to just seem like loud opinions because there's already enough of that. But
Yeah.
this is very much my lived experience. Is if you can do this, this is a great visibility moment. And if you just think about how wild it is that, you know, historically you have to work in one domain, work in one industry, build up your, you know, your career. And if you want to switch, you're going back down to ground zero and working your way back up unless you have a really good network. With AI, if you just learn how to use AI and amplify your own skills and your own domain expertise, you can go into any industry you want and you don't have to start from the bottom. So I just wanted to share that story and share that emphasis because I think that's the part for me where when I have conversations with people every day, that hasn't hit people as much, I don't think, at least. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you're seeing something different. But to me, the fact that you can go pick up a new industry anytime you want or try to change careers, because God forbid we don't do what we graduated from college getting, that's wild. It's a cool experience. And the visibility that comes with it is big. It's not a light, you know, it's not a light job.
No, I love that.
I think
So,
that's really what I
handing
wanted to
the mic
highlight.
back to you.
No. Okay. So let's talk about my experience. And I would love for you to kind of walk everyone through what the Chief AI Officer program is. So like, as far as for people that haven't gone on your website yet, what does it look like when they go into it? Like, what is the course breakdown as far
Yeah.
as collaboration versus like on their own learning?
Yeah. So it's intended to be consumed in 8 weeks or less. The fastest that we've had somebody go through it was a week, which blew me away. But she had been a head of global training at Dell and lifelong learner, blah, 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 and had instant application. So she was able to use it. And I think that, no hyperbole here, I think they tripled her pay. She was doing client work, so she brought more value. We like to start with, we do in the program, we introduce you to the concept so that you can participate in the conversation. If LLMs and natural language processing and deep learning and all those things come up, you'll be aware of them. We start with an introduction to the tactical tools because I think it's important that you have context on what is possible and what's not possible with the current, capabilities of the tools. And we get you tuned up on prompt engineering and the application of natural language bots and automations and that sort of thing. But what's missing, and we have executive students all the time, and they tell me, like, I went through the program from blank, and I'm like, oh man, that sounds exciting. How was it? And the answer is always the same. I learned a lot, but I didn't learn what to do. And for any of us here, like the knowledge alone is addition to your pedigree. However, you want to create more time, create more revenue, and create more enjoyment. These aren't teaching you that. So we actually move from there into, okay, great. You've learned the applications of them. Now let's talk about the development of an AI business strategy for a company, how to conduct that, how to get the leadership team and the decision makers all on kind of the same level of understanding so that we can move forward together as a decision-making group, not individual. From there, we help you identify who are the people in the organization that I can work with, right? There's already people in your company that are using the tools, whether you know it or not. They call that shadow usage. Find those individuals, and if you don't know who they are, start with marketing. All right. Trust me, though, marketers are early adopters of any type of tech that will give them an edge. Find those people and start to bring them into the conversation, because what you want to do is, we teach you how to do this. Start with pilot projects that are low risk, but high impact, low resource requirements. So we'll come up with a bunch of those in that group. Then we'll start to grade them. Okay, great. Where do we start? We've got 10 ideas. How do you map that out? How do you identify who's going to run it? How do you measure that? And then from there, once you've got proof of concept on a number of pilot projects, how to introduce a broader conversation into the business to where Would other departments like these results? And the answer is yes. And I would certainly say that you guys this is great. You're here in this council and you've got access to other people who share an interest in using these tools. Without that community, it's tough. And with the community, all of you are looking at tools out there, and one person can bring something in. I didn't even know that existed. Wow, great. So there's this collaborative hive mind activity. So being involved in a community of other chief AI officers or AI experts, something that we provide. And I mean, honestly, I'm getting business intelligence from all of the stuff that they're doing out there. And then we do have a few software tools, a prompt engineering tool called Prompt Vault, and a lot of pre-built AI process maps so that you can go in there, and we're not looking for you to start from scratch, right? Okay, great. I've learned this stuff. I'm going to start flat-footed. We're giving you the tools so that you can go in and in your own role or a client business, you're able to almost instantly, within the first week, start to show value that, hey, it wasn't painful, wasn't a big learning curve, it wasn't scary, and we're already starting to see results. That's incredible. So we prepare you for all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that this program exists, but let me tell you how angry I was when it existed after I'd already done this. So you heard about the program. Now let me explain to you what my experience was like, because I did not have the luxury of having this program back in 2022. When I rolled out AI to an enterprise org in 2022, pre-ChatGPT, I had a learning and development budget. Like I said, that's why I took the 35 certifications, and I thought I was like well equipped to deal with this, right? And all of you are probably executives or senior leaders. So you have signed off on budget, and it is your job to maintain budget to a certain degree, I would also assume. So you know that regardless of if the technology is AI or not, if it comes out of your budget, that is yours and yours alone to own. And your name is going on that IT ticket. Any issues, any turnover, you need to be responsible for it as it pertains to that tool. So whenever I had the luxury of doing this, and it was a Europe company, so, German-based company, we had GDPR, we had EU, a million other red tape pieces and elements in there. I was really excited to roll out AI, right? I went to the founder. I said, what is the business problem? He told me what he thought it was. I brought his enterprise staff in, that of all executives. And I said, what do all of you think it is, right? Like, what do you think the business's problem is? And the founder was in there, but I specifically said, do not give them the answer to what you think it is. Let them work it out on themselves. I did not know what I was doing, but this ended up being like my biggest victory, because when you get senior executives in a room with a founder, they become like almost children-like again. You have them vulnerable. Nobody wants to raise their hand. Nobody really wants to speak first because they don't want to be wrong. But you almost have to like get them to kind of forget that it's not about who's right or wrong and who has the answer, who doesn't have the answer. It's about brainstorming and experimenting together. Like, what do you think the business's problem is, right? So they align. The founder says, yes, I also agree with this. We move on to the next level. We start narrowing down the AI use cases that we're going to perform based on this business problem, right? So we're starting to like see this slowly trickle down into a strategy. But at the end of this, before you actually implement this, right? Like you just signed off, you're on the phone with IT started a Google Doc. And for every single AI tool that I wanted to roll out, they said, here's everything that could happen for this AI tool. What is your strategy that you're going to put in place to mitigate these risks? I had absolutely no idea what the heck I was going to do. And it took hours. I think half my hair turned gray. I'm not even kidding. And so I think why I joked at the beginning of this and said, I'm so mad that I didn't have your program before, was I fully would have needed, like, you in your program, you have the top 0.01% of software engineers in the world. I had no idea at the beginning of that journey that I would need someone of that caliber, and not even need them to run it, right? Because I'm fully capable of the strategy. I know the business because I've been working in it. I'm in the trenches of it, being a practitioner every day. But just someone to say like, hey, here's what I think. Based on your experience and your domain expertise, do you agree? That's where I think your program would have been the most beneficial for me in my journey. And not only that, but at the end, when you have an MBA portion of your course where Segovia, if you get to meet him, he's a delightful person. I hope he's on this call listening to me. But like after you learn all of this, he does not just say like, okay, here's your certification. He grills you, and in the best way possible. It's not like a, pass fail type thing, but it's like, okay, here's what you learned. If you had to roll out an AI tool, which one would you pick? Okay, you're going to pick this one. Why would you pick it? Make the business case. What are the metrics? How are you going to capture ROI? Because these are the conversations that are actually needed to implement AI. If you don't have metrics, if you don't know how to capture ROI or measure ROI pre-AI, then you're definitely not going to be able to do it post-AI. And so that communication, that alignment, that safe gate of understanding in a very watered down, applicable way what data security is and why it matters and how to mitigate these things from happening. That is that practical hands-on stuff that I learned in your course that no other course taught me.
Great.
And that's why I wanted to bring you up here. And it's like a, bring your, what do you call it when you're a kid? Like you bring your favorite like
Show
toy to
and
school.
tell.
Yeah. It was
Happy
a
to be that.
program. It was a program that after I did it, I was like, this is what people
Thank
need.
you for that.
It is. It really
Yeah.
is. I think that the communication piece and just people being okay not having a right or wrong answer, because that's very uncomfortable for a lot of people. That's what it takes to be a chief AI officer and make these decisions. You can't, not everything's black and white, and you have to sit in the gray and just figure it out. But coming from your domain expertise and knowing who to tap on when you need something.
Agreed.
I don't know. It's interesting. And can we talk about as well, out of everyone who's taken the chief AI officer training, I know that you said the person who took this in 1 week, she's great. She tripled her salary. Can we talk about the other members? Because I know a lot of them,
Sure.
and I know what their experience has been like and how much they're making now. And that is also mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. So we tend to attract individuals who are established in their career, and aren't like new to what they're doing. They bring a warm market to the table. They've already got a good network in their industry. They have established themselves as somebody who is a capable performer of that role. And they're sensing that the winds are changing and that, I need to learn this stuff for myself, for my own continued economic viability in my career. But also, if I can get ahead of this, as you mentioned, like you people notice only good things will happen to your career by you being recognized as, oh, AI, oh, Ashley knows that. Oh, go talk to Ashley. Because certainly you're able to provide a lot of value for your team members, and that's fulfilling to be that person that can help somebody have that breakthrough for sure. But leadership is understanding, you guys are all leaders, you're understanding, boy, if we could figure this stuff out, it would have an impact. It would give us an unfair advantage over our competition who is still kind of waffling on this stuff, AI, and for you to be a first mover in this will give you an advantage that will be hard for somebody else to catch up with. You will be operating, I look at it as horse versus car, right? It is a new paradigm of business. And when you do that, it's very easy for you to demonstrate the increased value that you bring. It's very easy for you to do that. And companies can, when you demonstrate what's possible in your role by being AI literate, AI enabled, they want more. They're like, do more of that. And it's very easy for you to justify an increase in status within the organization, compensation that comes with that, because a saying that I like to use is arithmetic's not an opinion, right? If I'm great at creative, I'm not a creative guy, but if somebody says, oh, this is, top-notch creative, my response is going to be, oh, did you test it? What does the data show, right? When you can come in and you were able to produce X, and now you're able to produce X plus and get more time back, it's not an opinion. Oh, they're a better performer now. The numbers will support you in that. Anecdotally and visually, people will go, oh my gosh, like that was fast. But if they look at the performance of your role, the study from Boston Consulting Group and Harvard showed that individuals who are using these tools had a 12% increase in production, 25% faster at a 40% higher quality. Back of napkin, run those numbers over your department or your entire business, and wow, that's a huge improvement. Again, with not adding more resources to the business. As a matter of fact, you might be able to either reallocate some of those resources or just not need as many of those resources. And when you combine that with the research that I just saw from McKinsey, those individuals from that study were now showing that they had 5 to 12 hours more per week that were available simply from using the tools. They're not working harder. They're, cliche, they're working smarter. But what does that smarter working of using these tools look like? It looks like they've now got 5 to 12 more hours. And I want to ask you, is that dipping out on Friday early? Is that more time with the kids? Or is it tackling the whiteboard, right? Like now I've got more bandwidth to address things that have been in the backlog that I don't know when we would have gotten to them, but because of these tools, because of my understanding of these tools, and because of me teaching my team how to use these tools in their role, it's not just you getting 5 to 12 more hours. Run that out again, back of napkin over the entire enterprise or your department. That's like having extra employees, or at least the hours, the resources of those extra employees are now available, but you don't have to hire the employee. You don't have to train the employee. You're now giving back hours to people who already understand your workflows and your processes. So the ramp up time for the increase in quality, production, and speed is instant once these people get to use these. So, what comes with that, again, obviously, it's a very easy argument for you to increase your pay or your hourly rate or your consulting fees, because you can demonstrate I bring more to the table. So it's pretty,
It's wild.
it's wild. It really is.
It's wild. And I'll kind of start to segue us into winding down here. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions. I know that everyone has the capability to raise their hands, so feel free to shoot us any questions if you have any. But I think to kind of, end this with the future outlooks, I think it's mind-blowing that we're having this conversation right now when Gardner's saying, by 2025, 30% of enterprises are going to have to hire a chief AI officer. Meanwhile, the people that are becoming chief AI officers today, they're going to be able to vertical down even more, because that's the evolution of becoming a chief AI officer. You're a generalist. You're becoming a generalist. And once you realize what domain you want to own, maybe you want to stay where you are, maybe you want to change, then you're specializing in something. So it doesn't actually end at the chief AI officer. It's going to start to vertical down. It's going to start to get more specific. And so founders are going to have a whole marketplace of chief AI officers who can segment themselves into data science, who can segment themselves into retail, into whatever industry they want. And they already have their tech stack of AI tools. They already have those workflows. They already have their prompt libraries. So essentially the employees have always been the assets, but they truly are like walking assets with all this information, and they get to just pick whatever career trajectory they want from themselves. That's really how I wanted to end this, because that to me, the freedom to choose how I spend my time, that to me is what I want to focus on. And that's really the reason why I'm so gung-ho about AI in the first place, is the freedom to be where I want to be and to do what I want to do. And if I don't want to do monotonous tasks, I don't have to. I don't see any
We have
questions.
time for questions.
Yeah, I don't see any questions in the audience, but I also don't know, maybe I'm looking at it in the wrong way. I'm looking at a panel on the right. I think this is what I'm supposed to be looking at.
I think we're good. So Ashley, I have a question for you. We did kind of on a whim, we did a conversation alignment of AI across the workplace.
Yes.
And you took the role, even though you've been on both sides of it. You took the role of that executive employee who was looking to introduce AI, and I took the role of the employer who was cautiously interested.
Yes.
And the feedback that we got from that was people really enjoyed that dialogue. If you are the person who wants to really champion the introduction of AI, or at least get permission to do it within your domain in the business, people found that very helpful.
Yes.
If you don't have an environment to go and kind of do a cold run of what's the executive team going to say when I bring this to the table, I would certainly, it seemed that was very helpful for people to prepare for those conversations.
Yes. Yeah. It was also, it's really frustrating when you're the champion in an organization And you're, the individual contributor of impact, especially tied to AI, because it's not easy. It's a lot of communication. It's a lot of teaching. It's not hard, but it's definitely not easy. It's worthy of being compensated more. You absolutely deserve a bonus. You absolutely deserve a title change and more compensation on top of that. And so implementing AI is part teaching other people how to be productive with AI, but it's also teaching your employer what expectations they should be setting with AI, because they need to know what's even possible. Otherwise, they have wild expectations being thrown at you because they think that anything's possible, and they don't actually know how to set those expectations, how to measure the quality, and how that translates to you as an individual contributor and an employee. So having the dialogue that we had really helps people through it, because it's not hard to use AI, but it is hard to communicate that with your stakeholders in a way that they understand how much of a contributor you are. Because what I see a lot of times happening is these pilot projects are failing because we have all these individual contributors at different organizations starting a project, they crush it, they get internal buy-in, and then there's no more momentum built up, right? Like they didn't start a movement. It's not a lot of people piggybacking on top of them and wanting to continue it. And so what happens? Well, that one individual goes, well, I just did this for free for a year on top of my other job. This other company is going to pay me way more to go over there and do this. I'm going to go there because they appreciate me, which is totally fine. That's the evolution of the workforce. But from an employer standpoint, you have employees in your organization that know how to use these tools effectively. They just aren't the people you think they are. To your point, I came from marketing. I was a 10-year marketer. And y'all, I failed statistics in college, like literally failed statistics. I did not come from STEM. I did not come from data. I didn't even learn how to code until last year. I should not, my point is like, I should not be in the position I am. I should not have had the visibility that I did or been able to roll out AI. But because I raised my hand and said, I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to learn, and I leaned into that curiosity, I was able to completely transition my career and do my own thing. And it was really a focus and emphasis on taking the communication that I already had and figuring out how to get better at that communication, and then finding the problems that are painful enough to my internal executive stakeholders and the founders and the boards, and applying AI to those problems. Because if I'm applying AI to the small problems that they don't see them. So they don't know what's happening. But if I pick a problem that's painful enough that they see every single day and they're reminded of, and I communicate it in that way, then there's no way that they're not going to know what my contributions are as an employee. I don't have to go to bat for myself to get a promotion.
I've got another question that it's unique to your experience. Leaders are on this call. They're going to be getting either approached or they're going to approach about the introduction of this. And when you were in that role and bringing it into the organization, what were some of the misalignments of expectation from the decision makers with reality that these people can expect?
We're just coming out with pitchforks, huh? I will say this. I generally am seeing a reoccurring pattern of board members giving AI implementation to CMOs. And I don't think that it is a coincidence that we're seeing the largest turnover of CMOs that we've ever seen consistently. I think CMOs have always been dealt with heavy-handed tasks. And so I see a lot of board members throwing AI under the realm of digital transformation and giving it to the CMO and not giving them a learning and development budget, resources, task force calls where it's just a 30-minute call where they brainstorm what they've been doing with AI. It's just this loose expectation of go use AI to do things for the business. And most of the time they want to see the impact in terms of revenue. And there's no guardrails or anything. And so again, it's top down, but it's not crystal clear on, well, what have we done in the past that we actually know how to qualify and quantify, right? Like, what is a problem that we've had that we know what the metrics look like and we know how to get there and what a good ROI looks like? Well, let's go apply AI to that. That's one thing I'm seeing a lot of. And then I would say the other big assumption that I'm not, really understanding is it doesn't need to be a senior leader, and really it shouldn't be a senior leader championing this. Y'all are already dealt a heavy hand. Like you're managing people, you're managing, your founder and your board's expectations. And so I think that enabling your employees, like there's always a way to motivate employees. And what I've found to be really helpful is everybody wants a promotion. Everybody wants more money. So look at the competencies that are required internally at your organization to get a promotion and work with HR, work with your people ops team to figure out if AI really is that big of a priority from a board and founder level, then put some money behind it. Add that as one of the competencies. AI implementation. If you have XYZ in the realm of AI implementation, that is one competency that you get towards your promotion. Put some actual oomph behind this instead of just saying something, like back it up with some action in some form. That's what I've seen really be helpful, because it actually needs to be the employees that are in the trenches that know the workflows, that are the ones saying, hey, I think we can use AI for that, because they're already the human in the loop. They already know what this workflow looks like. So when you add AI to it, they can tell you whether it's working or not. Executives aren't in the trenches as much as those employees, but they equally need to understand whether or not it's working. They just shouldn't be the practitioners of it necessarily.
So this concept of upskilling your team, how would you suggest people approach that if they don't
Uh,
have the L&D budget, or they want to get started quickly without necessarily the formalities of the L&D budgeting?
Here's the 3 biggest problems I've seen in every single organization I've ever worked in: lack of clean data, lack of insight into the customer journey, and lack of good leads. And these are surface level pains, right? Like there's always something deeper there. Maybe it's, your CRM's not in alignment. Maybe you're relying on third-party data tools and they're not enriching your data right. These are surface level pains with deeper underlying meanings, but those 3 problems have emerged in every single organization I've ever worked in. Pick one of those problems, because that will translate into revenue. At the end of the day, it's not about the pointing fingers, right? We immediately, as soon as there's a problem diagnosed in an organization, marketing goes, well, it's sales, and sales goes, well, it's marketing. And it's like, no, at the end of the day, if we're not making money, nobody has a job. So it's all of us. It's not one or the other. Let's pick one of those problems. Let's go do some investigating, because even if we're not implementing AI, we need to figure out what the heck's going on with these problems. Let's just say it's the lack of clean data, and you go into your CRM and you're using HubSpot and Tableau and Salesforce, and you're paying an arm and a leg for all of those, but they're not talking to each other, right? Or maybe it's a lot of employees not updating the information correctly. Either way, find whatever that problem is, like actually find it and diagnose it, and then figure out how you can use AI to enhance it, or get rid of an automation, or get rid of a task that can be automated, right? So that instead of your sales reps focusing on cleaning out your CRMs, they're out there getting new leads. That translates immediately into revenue. So my consensus is find a problem that's painful enough that everyone agrees on it, align everyone on how you're going to solve that, how you're going to measure AI ROI, and then go try, like go get to work. A lot of this is experimentation and just figuring it out. Hold community type office hours, 30 minutes every other week, where you invite anyone that wants to be there, a part of your organization, into those
Great
calls and talk about, and maybe even show how you're using AI. That is where the magic happens. And to your point earlier in the call, you said hive mind. That's hive mind.
So there must have been some in your path of, hey, Ashley, do you want to do this, to, oh my gosh, Ashley did it. What were some of the challenges that you had that maybe some of the individuals on the call might anticipate in advance?
Well, first of all, I did this pre-chat GPT, so I had no idea that all the work I was going to do was even going to pay off. I was really just like raising
Yeah.
my hand because I wanted a promotion. I wanted to get that senior title. I've been a marketer for 10 years. So before this happened, my end goal was CMO. It is no longer CMO. I think that's an amazing career. But just to kind of give you an idea of where I was at, like that was my 3 to 5 year plan. I came from marketing. I was staying in my lane. This was the end goal for me. And so when they wanted me to raise my hand and say, like, do you want to do this? I just thought, yeah, like I want options. I don't know if I will want to be a CMO in another year or two. And I say all that because I did this without knowing the ROI. Like ChatGPT didn't blow up or disrupt anything yet. So the problems that I ran into, I think, are a little bit different than the ones they'll run into now. I had to actually prove that it was worth everyone's time and investment while I was also teaching people this. I don't think that people fully understand that. And maybe that's a little bit of the issues we're running into now as people, it's not as tangible, right? You can't see it immediately unless you're working with someone who knows how to use these tools and can show you in 30 minutes how to get from point A to point B. But I also think that that issue can be mediated a lot more if we as a society just start saying like, I don't want to hear about AI. I want to see it. If you're going to tell me about AI, show me, back it up with statistics. Like, why should I care? So that was really like the number one issue that I ran into. And then the other one would just be, you know, the lack of understanding and sharing knowledge. There was a lot of, you know, like I was a champion in the organization, but I had to teach it, learn it, absorb it, and then go make sure that everyone else was doing it on their own as well. So I think having executive alignment on the top where every single senior leader is like, hey, are you holding your team responsible? Are you holding your team responsible? And just knowing their employees, like that was a big issue. Because again, AI is an enhancer. It enhances everything there. So if there's issues, right? Like if a senior leader doesn't know their employees, they don't know what intrinsically motivates them, AI is only going to enhance that issue. You still have to go meet with that employee, figure out what motivates them to learn and do better and what their goal is, and help them figure out a way to do the tasks they do every day that pushes them further, you know, closer to their goal, but add in AI to that. So I think that those were the issues that I ran into a lot, is just issues that already existed in an organization. They're just being enhanced and highlighted even more with AI.
I got one final question, then I'll turn it back over to Doug. Sorry. Timeline. You know, in 2023, there was a lot of buzz about it. I mean, it's only grown, but I was expecting mass adoption would have occurred by now, but we're realizing it hasn't. What are your thoughts on the timeline when it's going to be, I guess, too late to take advantage of being an early adopter?
I think Q2 of next year, but here's why. I think that there's a lot missing in terms of tying AI to revenue. I will say, like, that's one thing I'm really proud of myself for. I didn't know a lot about AI. I'd never rolled it out to an organization, let alone an enterprise org, but I knew it needed to translate into money, right? Like even on your resume, when you're applying for jobs, you can't just say like, has held board meetings, right? Like you need percentages, you need revenue, you need facts and figures on there that resonate with people. So 3 months after rolling out AI, we overachieved our pipeline of 90 million and hit 115 million. At the end of the day, that's what people care about. They don't care about the 25 AI use cases. I do. I nerd out all day long with them. I have a slide deck I keep up to date with my logo, and I'm really happy about it. But they don't care, right? And that's totally fine. I still showed my contribution to the organization and what I can bring to the table. So I think that there's more employees taking advantage of becoming chief AI officers and learning how to tie AI to revenue. And I think that it's definitely picking up steam to the point where this is not going to be as rare as it is right now. So that's why I say Q2 of next year, because I think that I've even seen the evolution of people teaching AI. Like it went from nothing, like a handful of people could teach AI and show it, to now a lot more people can do it. And they're specialized with their domain expertise. So they're not just teaching AI tutorials, they're teaching AI tutorials as a tenured marketer, right? As a 15-year sales executive.
Yeah.
So I think it's coming. I really do. I think that the front of the movement is coming to its end, and we'll be just like in the middle, in the thick of it, just swimming.
Nice.
Oh, the man behind the camera, Doug.
Yes, thank you. That was a great session. Thank you to Ashley and Chris for sharing your insight. Very much appreciated. Thank you to all viewers, of course. As Ashley said, we'll be following up with everybody with a list via email of the tools and certifications that they mentioned. Please keep up with future sessions of Get the Prompt and a huge list of other retail AI events on retailaicouncil.com. Please follow us on LinkedIn. Always feel free to contact us at info@retailaicouncil.com. Feel free to contact me personally at doug@retailaicouncil.com. Thank you and have a great day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.